Field, what's the timeline for the Raiders to trade Carr? As we bring in Field Yates here for the first time.
Yeah, Laura, I'm very jealous of all you guys, by the way, spending time together out in Vegas. But here is where things stand and where they are headed with Derek Carr. As of February 15th, a couple days after the Super Bowl, $40.4 million of the remaining money owed to Derek Carr on his extension signed this past offseason becomes fully guaranteed. And Carr said yesterday at the Pro Bowl games he is not willing, as of right now, to push that date back, which would buy the Raiders some extra time, because the moment that money becomes guaranteed, the Raiders obviously lose significant leverage in a trade. So a trade could be agreed to prior to that date. It could be agreed to after that date as well. Laura, you just would figure the price would go down once that money becomes fully guaranteed. So things could escalate in a hurry over the next 12 days with Derek Carr and his future with the Raiders.
Yeah, it's interesting. Field, you explained that really well. The timeline here where Carr really isn't helping Vegas out when it comes to buying them time. He wants to maybe get this thing going here as quickly as possible. Thanks to Field Yates for joining us. And we'll continue to follow that timeline because I think, to Field's point, this could happen within the next 12 days.
He shouldn't be helping them out at all.
Ain't no reason for Derek Carr to help Vegas.
He's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and see how quickly I can make this thing happen, and guaranteed money is great. But either way, Mina, before we get to a landing spot for Carr, who is he as a quarterback now?
Yeah, I do think it's worth revisiting because he's obviously coming off of one of his worst seasons as a pro. A lot of factors went into that. Injuries, offensive line, skill player. I felt like him and Josh McDaniels never really vibed. But we've seen much better versions of Derek Carr in the past. Like even the prior year comes to mind. And I know it's a game, the precision passing thing, but you did see what I think is his greatest attribute as a quarterback, which is the accuracy, the deep ball accuracy, the touch he can throw with. For him, the question is often like, okay, you have those tools. Is the aggression there? Is the playmaking there? But we do know he has a high floor as a quarterback. So for me, you're looking at teams that can compete now, teams that have decent skill players, decent line situation, teams that aren't going to be drafting a rookie quarterback high. So I would say New York comes to mind. We talked about Tampa. That's another good option. I'll throw out Washington, too, which is something we haven't brought up. To me, though, at least one of those teams, I suspect more than one will be interested.
Yeah, look, I got to bring him back. I got to start calling him Johnny Cash Jr. again.
I forgot
Like
about
you did
that.
last
Yeah,
year.
like I did last year after that with RC, right?
He was good.
Like I like that. I like breaking out of the shell, man. Like you realize what the situation is. And Mina, you alluded to it. 2 years ago, Derek Carr threw for 4,800 yards. Right, his touchdown to interception ratio was about the same as it was in that season, but we saw a lot of the intangibles about Derek Carr, and I think he was able to put that on display. I was a little bit surprised by how this played out this year. Not only this team not having the amount of success that we thought they would have, even this division. We thought this division would get 4 teams in the playoffs, but really Las Vegas, right? Derek Carr leadership came to a fold. He played well. To your point, Mina, the deep ball accuracy, when you added Devontae Adams, you thought that would, kind of take over the league, and it didn't materialize for whatever reason. What I think about Derek Carr right now, though, is if you're a team, the teams that you mentioned in Tampa and New York, and you want to win, I think you win with Derek Carr. Like, I think this is a guy you win with, right? And at times, he's shown an elevated level of being an explosive passer. I think back to Derek Carr when he went into Kansas City and went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes.
2 seasons
ago, right? I think about the final game when they needed to get in the playoffs 2 years ago, right? So I think this may be a gem for somebody in the right situation.
He seems ready for that change, too, which I think is a big piece of it.
And motivation.
Everyone's talking about the Jets, though, Dan. I think that's probably one of the main teams that people have circled. How does Derek Carr potentially fit there?
Good, but it's got to be way more about do they believe he could play good football. I think to Mina's point, there's 7 quarterbacks in the NFL that you win games because of right now. There's 9 that you win games with. He's in that grouping of 9. If you're the Jets, though, it has to be so much greater than, do we think Derek Carr could play good football? One, can he handle the New York market? That is a very real thing. For anybody that hasn't paid attention, it's a very real burden to kind of carry. And the second thing is this, and we've talked about this. The Jets are a playoff caliber football team. Some could argue Super Bowl caliber defense, okay? The burden to step into that locker room and carry the weight of expectation. You're basically carrying Joe Douglas, the general manager, and Robert Saleh's job security in your hands.
100%.
That's a real thing for a guy that maybe hasn't felt that, so to speak, in that market. So I don't think a lot of us gripe about or disagree, can Derek Carr play good football? Sure. Can he do it in New York under those expectations and in that market? That's what the Jets have to find out more than they have to find out, well, can he throw the out route well enough?
I think Tampa.
Yeah,
I
you
think
like
Tampa.
Tampa a lot. Again, with the timeline on the trade here, Derek Carr, no intention of extending the guarantee trigger on the contract. And, of course, that means they have until February 15th. Once February 15th hits, $40 million guaranteed, and that's the Raiders' responsibility.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.